when it comes to red tape reduction, the previous governments have hung their heads. Oh yeah, we've reduced red tape. We've reduced red tape. We've reduced regulatory burden. But then we find out they've eliminated a guideline or a regulation that says, you know, you can't hitch your horse in front of a saloon between 9 and noon on a Sunday. And they say, well, we've reduced regulations. That does nothing for anybody in today's world. So if you can help us understand, if you've got a couple of specific examples of red tape reduction, regulatory burden reduction that can help business today.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right about it. And I think this is where governments get trapped in some of that, you know, just trying to do it for the sake of doing it and not really looking at the impact that they're having. And you gave a great example of that. But I think it's really important that when we're looking at reducing, that's why we also have the cost element to our plan. It's not just reducing a number of regulations, it's reducing the cost of business and the cost of doing business in Ontario, because we know that that's a key requirement for businesses, a key requirement to remain competitive in today's economy, in today's marketplace. And I think you know, I could give a great number of examples, but I can give a couple of very interesting examples that kind of hit home to maybe some of the manufacturing side. Like our auto plants, for example, had a regulation whereby they were all treated and had to comply with the same regulations as gas stations had to comply with. And the reasoning for that was because when they take a car off the line, they've got to pump about, I think, 3 or 5 liters of gas. And so now you've got an entire facility that has to comply with the regulations that a gas station has to comply with, which has many regulations because they're carrying, you know, and which they should. But it was adding, you know, the cost of adding those regulations was quite significant, and it was hitting the competitiveness for being in Ontario. And so those are some of the common sense changes that we can make to you know, come in with regulation and understand that there's no cookie cutter approach to businesses and to regulations across all sectors. And that's also something that we're really working towards. We know that specific industries have specific asks. The medical sector currently today, which is actually even the pharmaceutical side, which is thriving in Mississauga, they have specific asks that are hindering their growth within the province of Ontario. Far too many times we hear companies that are created, you know, I had the privilege of working in the city of Waterloo as a corporate lawyer for a long time with Miller Thomson, and I saw emerging tech companies, and my practice focused on the small startup companies that are trying to scale up. So many times we have Canadian companies with Canadian tech, IP developed in Ontario, but they can't get access to Ontario's data. They have to go to the US, they have to go to the UK. And that's an issue in my opinion, and that's red tape that's stopping Canadian companies from growing. And that shouldn't be the case, right? And when these companies go abroad, you know, their first question is, hey, why isn't government of Ontario supporting you? Why isn't the government of Ontario one of your clients, right? Because they always want to see what is your database or what is your record. And I see that as a significant challenge for some of our Canadian companies here, and I think we need to move towards common sense regulations that keep up with technology, that keep up with the pace of business and how we're growing here today in Ontario. And I think those are some of the real issues that we can really tackle, and I look forward to tackling in my position in this ministry.